I was going through your profile and also your company profile. I
Yeah.
found that basically you are a founder. You have founded so many institutions. Apart from working for McKinsey and ABP, I think all the other institutions you are basically a founder also, isn't it? Founding.
Yeah. Yeah.
And before that, you have a background. You actually belong to Bihar. And Bihar also has a very rich legacy. It has got a Buddhist legacy, which we also try to follow because there was a school attached to each Buddhist monastery. That is what our founders have said. So actually, that's why we have also kept the word Pallikkutam in the brand name as Pallikkutam. So. And I was going through your background, and you are from Bihar, which has got a very good Buddhist legacy. Then, of course, very good, very ancient, glory associated with a lot of kingdoms and all. So from there, actually, you started off your journey in education, isn't it, Bihar?
Yes.
So how did you evolve into this kind of most of your jobs have been like you have been involved in a leadership role. So how do you define that growth from the school level then to IIT, and then you have been in the leadership role in many areas?
Yeah. So when I was growing up, I never imagined that I would be in these leadership roles. I mean, it wasn't even conceivable that I would be setting up institutions, which is what I do now, or start a business from scratch. I think my education has obviously played a very big role in enabling me to get here, and I'm very grateful for that as I look back on my life. But like you mentioned about Pallikkutam, I went to a Jesuit school, and they too had a similar, it was not a Buddhist school, but it had a similar ethos, very committed uh, uh, priests and teachers who had come all the way from the United States to set up a school in a place like Patna, and they were very committed, and they instilled in all of us a very strong sense of public service, but also those initial traits of leadership, which is, I think the first thing was this tradition of excellence, of trying to do things really well every time. They also instilled on you an appreciation for going beyond the classroom. There was a lot of emphasis on speaking and writing and teamwork and student leadership, organizing things. So you don't realize it then in that age and stage in life. You don't appreciate the benefit of that. But in a way, and I look back, that training helped a lot, because in that time it was merely a sense of competition that got you to participate, or a sense of having some fun because you get to organize the school fete every year. But when you look back on it, those were the places where you learned from the leadership experience. I think going to IIT was a little bit more automatic. It was not, you like even today, it's become worse. It was like everybody tries everything, try your best to get somewhere. You're not sure what you want to do. And so because I got in, I went there. That contributed both negatively and positively. I think the negative contribution, which became positive later on, was the extreme constricted and constrained way in which that education happened for me. Looking back on it, you spend the 4 best years of your life in a great institution, but being forced to study something that you did not intend to ever study or had no interest in, because of the tyranny of our admission system and our numbers. So I studied metallurgical engineering, in which I really had no interest, and I never really intended to work in that area. And I feel sad because that continues to happen. The government of India invests so much in you as a student to train you in a subject for which they get no value. I never worked in the metallurgical industry ever again in my life. And it was there for a reason. I think they needed steel makers or or metal experts, but I didn't do any of that, unfortunately. Just use that degree to jump to the next thing. And that's what most people do, which is very sad. And that left a deep impression, to which you see a lot of that. What I do now is a response to that experience. So in a way, you say that was positive because it changed me and made me do things differently. But what it also did was, because there was no interest in the core subject, you tried to do other things, which of course that way IIT Kanpur provided that experience, and led to the enhancement of my own leadership, because it was a well endowed place. I got to do some courses in computer science, which I normally would not have in another institution. I was privileged in those days. And so that allowed me to go into a field like robotics for my PhD. That too was a benefit of the US education system, which I was privileged to benefit from. But that privilege came from having gone to IIT Kanpur, right? So you can't completely forget that you reaped the benefits of that privilege. And so on. So I think all of these experiences continue to add up. And I particularly feel very privileged because of all of this, because I look at the opportunities I got, and I realize that the opportunities in the country have not multiplied in the same way as the students have. And so, in fact, competition has become even greater for those few opportunities. So I feel that, anything I can do to expand opportunities for students, however small, is a big contribution one can make. In fact, it's the most important contribution one can make for what one has benefited from all of this education. I mean, if you think about it, most of this education was given to us for free. I mean, you cannot place a price on the sacrifices those American fathers made to run the school in Patna. The amount of fees I paid to IIT in those days was minuscule. It was hardly anything. My food bill used to be more than my fee and my hostel bill. So I feel that the world, the society, people, government, public has invested in us. And I think we all of us who have benefited from an education in this country of scarce resources are extremely privileged, and we almost have a duty, a debt to pay back. And that has been a big driver of what I do. As far as the leadership in other fields is concerned, I think that really comes from that old, very middle class ambitiousness or drive, which, we were all brought up with, where your parents kept saying that, you must work hard, you must aspire. I think our generation, you are maybe a little bit younger, but not too much. Our generation had lived through, our parents' generation had lived through independence and so on. So they felt that they had made all the sacrifices, and it was for their children to now reap the benefits of what independent country had to offer. So that drive was always there to do more and to keep moving forward. I think in my case, there was always, I don't know if it is part of where it came from, whether it was my upbringing or whether it was in my DNA. I've always been a little bit enamored by newer things to do. So if you look at my journey, there's been a lot of lateral movement that is not as if you would normal or common. And I think that comes from the kind of person I am. I think I like to do different things and I like to explore. I find it hard to say no. I look at all opportunities as a learning opportunity. And consequently, there are many things that I have failed at also, which people don't know about. But in this kind of life, I've had lots of bad decisions, false moves. But overall, it's led to something better each time. So, yeah, I think that is those are some of the themes of how I went from growing up in Patna to where I am today. I don't know if that answers.
Yeah,
that's what you were
yes,
looking at.
yes. So because leadership skill is not something which you can teach. Actually, if you look at leaders, they have somehow evolved over a period of time. Maybe as you said, the different kind of experiences that you have gone through, also the failures which many people actually don't know. So they only see your successes, isn't it?
Yes.
When they look at your CV, they only find your success, not the failures or the hardships that you went through. But
Yes.
the one point I noted is that that urge to that middle class, what do you call, values to show and actually to excel. That was
Yes.
also there in the and also the Jesuit training. So I come back to the school also because now we have a new education policy, which is supposed to be very revolutionary and trying to bring a lot of transformation in education. So do you think that the new generation of children are really going to benefit with this kind of policy? Because there are two opposing views. One is that this policy is really path-breaking and is in tune with the modern worldwide trends. But there is also from the opposition to this policy, which says that this is we are not yet ready, or maybe there are some issues with this. So what is your view on that? I think your Harappa education is also taking some, already has taken some of the important points that the education policy has already mentioned.
Yeah, I think Sri Kumar, the truth is that the policy in itself is, I think, uh, very path breaking, and it's path breaking in the sense of where we were before and what it is suggesting for the future. So I have no doubt in my mind that it is path breaking. As with respect to what is happening in the world and the wider world, my view is that we are only catching up. That is not, it is new for India, but it is not necessarily new in terms of what has already been happening. And so it was about time that we made these changes. The challenge that remains now when you talk about next generation of children is how fast can we implement this? Because we have a giant system of education. It's probably the largest in the world at some level. Now, how do you ensure that every school, every child feels the impact of this thinking? Every teacher, every school has to transform itself. And they were already trying to catch up on terms of just basic quality of education and learning outcomes and student experience and teacher quality. Now, on top of that, you have to reorient them into this new sort of holistic education, multidisciplinarity, 21st century skills, critical thinking, leadership. So it's a big ask. But there is no doubt in my mind that the ask has to be taken up. One cannot ignore that we need to move in that direction. And to me, the biggest challenge now remains of how fast and how quickly can you do this and not wait another 30 years to say the same thing again and not have implemented it.
Yeah, because in 1980, 84, 86, when the new education policy was announced, Rajiv Gandhi, who was a visionary at that point of time, was telling that we need to have blackboards in all the schools. So he had launched Operation Blackboard, you might remember. So we are still lagging behind in infrastructure in many areas. So despite this very forward-looking policy, how do you think that we can address the infrastructure issues so that this gets implemented? Or is it not about infrastructure, but the kind of attitude that we need to develop?
No, Sri Kumar, infrastructure is definitely required. And it is one of the necessary conditions it is not the sufficient condition, but it is clearly one of the necessary conditions to make this policy viable. However, I think that the time has come to start thinking of infrastructure in a somewhat more relevant way. Like you said, while Rajiv Gandhi wanted to get blackboards, fact is 35 years later, we have not been able to get blackboards, right? We have not been able to get a classroom to the student. We have not been able to bring the teacher to that classroom. Even the classroom doesn't exist. Forget the blackboard. My view is that this infrastructure has to now include technology, because without that, we will not be able to make it. We are so far behind that if we follow the old model of the Rajiv Gandhi blackboard model, we will never get there. And lots of people are going to get left behind. So many people, when I say this, many people think that I'm talking in the air. And today there's a lot of talk about, in the online world, how are people going to be able to access. Nobody has bandwidth, nobody has a device, nobody has a laptop, nobody has a PC. But that's what we have to get them. The new call has to be that, listen, we have failed to get you a blackboard or a classroom. At least let's get you a device. So that is what I think the infrastructure plan should be.
Actually, our electronics, Ministry of Electronics, I think they tried to develop a low-cost device called Akash, which is a tablet.
Yes. Yes.
But it didn't succeed. But now it is becoming more relevant because many parents are not able to afford another smartphone or another laptop or device for their children. So I think this is one area where we need to focus on, isn't it? One very simple, affordable device which can serve as a single point for the child to access everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So now, when it comes to Harappa, I was going through that entire your philosophy. I think it is based on that 5 pillars that you have identified: think, solve, communicate, collaborate, and lead.
Yes.
So how did this pillars evolve? What is this is from your experience, that corporate experience, that this is required, and whom are you targeting? Basically, I found 2 verticals. One is the campus, and the other is business, corporate. Isn't it? 2, corporate.
So again, Shri Kumar, I personally, in terms of targeting, I think this applies to everyone, honestly. The targeting is more because I am trying to build a business out of it. And I need to find people who I can sell to and get some money so that I can build this out even further. But honestly, if I could do it, I would just do it for free. Because I think that these are skills that we have neglected for generations. These are skills that should be taught to every child in school. These are skills that are in fact as important, and if not more important, than many of the technical skills that are being taught, which we never use. Most of us have been taught calculus, and maybe calculus should be taught, but I must tell you that getting and receiving and giving feedback should be taught much more than calculus. How you speak and structure your thoughts should be taught more than calculus. So I do think that I'm filling a gap, and that it applies to everyone. It applies to journalism. It applies to lawyers, doctors, architects. It applies to everyone. Now, how this came about is really a culmination of the entire experience that I've had. I'm a firm believer now for some time that honestly, anyone can do anything. What was your undergraduate degree in?
Economics.
Right. So you were an economics graduate. You are now a journalist, editor.
Yeah.
You may not have done a journalism degree. It's not like you had to go to Indian Institute of Mass Communications to do what you do. You seem to be a good interviewer. You have prepared well. You have done the background research on me before coming into the interview. You got prepared questions. You are listening very intently. You are asking very deep and perceptive questions. My point is that you become a journalist. You've learned it on your own, right? But what made you make this big switch? And ultimately, if you look at that, the skills that have helped you is your ability to think for yourself. Your ability to say, okay, I have to solve, how do I get to Pramath Sinha? Or how do I organize a EdTech awards, right? Nobody educated you on that, but you problem solved through it. You learned how to communicate. In fact, you're communicating across a medium like this for the first time and being able to connect with the other person. You write well. You may not have ever done a formal writing course.
Yeah, I did my journalism in PG.
Well, there you did. You did.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Yes.
But even then, the journalism courses may have helped you a little bit, but a lot of other courses helped you, or a lot of other training helped you. The apprenticeship that you got helped you.
Actually, economics has helped me more. Yeah. Yeah.
So ultimately, we connect all these dots. We pick up all these dots and we connect it. And the connector is these skills. And finally, the leading skill, which is that drive that we talked about, that unless you have some motivation to do better, to achieve something, all of this is just theoretical. So I have found that these are the skills that enable you to do anything. It is more important than any qualification, any PG degree, any undergrad degree, and so on. And all I'm trying to do is tell people that, listen, at least become aware of this. If you become aware, then at least you can become make an effort to learn this, practice this, master it in life. If you are unaware, then you go through life without thinking that this could make a difference.
So the drive, from that drive, how will that come? Is it inborn kind of thing? Or nurtured?
I think it is nurtured. I think it is learned. And I think the inborn part comes from showing people what they are actually capable of. Most people are not motivated because they are not excited about the future. They don't see the possibilities. They don't believe enough in themselves. They've never thought of world as, they somehow assume that what is given to me is what determines my future. And I'm not trying to give a motivational speech on empowerment and so on. I'm just saying that only when people are able to see something that fits their likes and potential, then the excitement and drive takes off, right?
So I will just ask you, yours is a startup, but you still, you have 2 years of experience, isn't it? Harappa was launched 2 years.
Yes, it was launched 2 years ago, but we only launched our courses about 6 months ago.
Okay. But still, the initial feedback that you have got from the students, what is the outcome? What was their performance before start doing the course, and what is the significant outcome that you have seen in them? Different major change or
the major change, Sri Kumar, is their confidence in their ability to speak better, or think better, or problem solve better. This is their self. Right now, it's early days. So this is their self-professed belief in that skill. That, oh, I think I've learned something. And they all say that, oh, I have practiced this. I have a very cute example.
So the outcome is generally...
The outcome you were asking was, I think students have generally come back and said that we feel more confident. And a lot of the feedback from their managers is also that people seem to have changed. But I'll confess that it is early days. But just by the fact that the kind of testimonials students are giving, it is clear that they have learned something. Yes. They talk about how they have employed some of the learnings in their lives, in their workplace, in their families. Also, the feedback on the course itself has been very positive. We measure the performance, or measure their feedback on a scale of 1 to 5, and most people have been rating us 4.3, 4.4, 4.5, which for an education online program is quite high. So that, of course, is their personal satisfaction with the course. You are talking more about the outcome.
Yeah.
The outcome, we only have anecdotal evidence, but the testimonials are very strong. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they will not forget some of these things, that they will continue to build on them. The bet I'm taking is that once I show you the way, then you will build on that.
Okay. So how do you plan to scale up your business? You need more number of students join, or more corporates join.
Then to more and more people. And this is the kind of thing that they will continue to do every year. So I see ourselves as being an educational institution with lots of students all over the place, not under my roof, but spread out virtually. We have 25 courses, and there will be more courses that we will do over time. People are talking about a 60-year working life, 60-year curriculum. And so I'm hoping that people will stay with us for the lifelong learning, and that we'll build from here and go forward.
So what is the strength of your the content or the technology platform that you are using?
It's really the content. The technology platform, there are lots of them outside, though I have built my own, but it's really the curation and creation of the content. Because
basically you some edtechs say that we are only in the technology part, but you are both in technology and more into content curation.
We are into content. The tech is only to make sure that this content is available to a large number of people, so we do use tech to our advantage. But I think it's not tech so much as the digital pedagogy. How do you teach online? That's the core of it, actually. Content plus the way to teach online, and especially this type of content, how to teach it online.
Okay. You have used the term Harappa. And also I was also looking at the what do you call designations that you carry. One is Chief Inspirer, and Shreyasi has called Chief Warrior. So how come those two? One is the Harappa choice of Harappa brand name.
So the designations first are more sort of our own sort of fun way of describing our roles, because I see her as the one who's kind of the going out for the war to build the business. I'm providing the motivation and the inspiration. We still have the formal titles of founder and chairman and founder and CEO. But yes, I see my role as inspiring rather than running the company. Her role is more the running the company and being the battle warrior. The Harappa name is something that has stayed with me for quite some time. It was in my mind for many projects over the years. I feel that Harappa carries with itself a symbol of excellence. I think that was a time when
civilizational,
civilizationally, as a people, as a community, people seem to have achieved, and this is 5,000 years ago. People seem to have achieved a level of excellence that undoubtedly was excellent. I don't know even if you would say we were matched that or not, but the systems and so on that were in place, and that too gleaned not even by understanding their language, but just from a interpretation. For us, the fact that it was a time when the human beings were at their zenith in some ways, at least in that era, whether it is about how they lived, how they thought, how they planned, how they ran their economy, how they ran their sanitation, how they built their cities, the civilized way in which they lived, all of that, their art, their sculptures, all speak of a time where we were at a zenith or a peak of some time. That was one reason to think of Harappa. It's a very Indian name. I'm a little bit of a patriot at heart, and I felt that I want to create something out of India that can be known the world over. I don't think there are too many brands like that. So maybe I'm being too ambitious, but that's one little drive that I have. And finally, our skills are really foundational. Harappa to us is the origins of the civilization. I think the skills I'm focusing on are not, they are basic human skills. They are foundational. They are part of us. It's just that we don't.
You cannot do without basic skills that we should not.
And we are born with these. They are in our DNA. They were there 5,000 years ago. They are there today. It's just that we have neglected them. So it's not like I'm discovering some new gene or some new muscle or some new skill out of nothing. These are already there. All I'm trying to is bring them out. So for all those reasons, I think Harappa evokes that kind of imagery, that kind of story. And that's why we like the name.
Great. I'm sure that this will be a great service to the nation, and a lot of companies and campuses are going to benefit out of this.